Hi, my name is Ahmed Al Abbasi for CG Tuts Plus. In today's tutorial we will be creating 3D spheres using Cinema4D. So let's get started. So the first thing we'll need to do is change the image resolution by going to the render settings, selecting output, preset, screen, and we'll choose 1920 by 1200. Close the render settings. You can leave the default settings here, no need to worry about them. Let's close the render settings. Now we are going to create two objects, a sphere and a landscape. If we combine these two objects, we could create a basic shape of a planet. Select the landscape and make it spherical. Zoom out, select the sphere and resize it to 378. Now we have a basic shape of a planet. Next, we will add a landscape and we'll go to the deformer palette and we will add a melt deformer and an explosion. We need these three objects to create the fluid you see in this image. Before we create the fluid, let's turn these two off so we can see what's happening. And change the name of this landscape to melted landscape. And we'll make it spherical. And click and drag the melt deformer onto the melted landscape. And click and drag the explosion right underneath the melt deformer. Now if we turn back on the landscape and the sphere, we can only see half of them. So let's fix that by going into the front view, deselect the explosion, control click sphere and the landscape and move them upward until the bottom is aligned with the x-axis, something like that. Let's go back to our perspective view. And let's zoom out so we could have a better look at our scene. Now we need to change the size of the x-axis on the melted landscape and we'll just make it 600. And now it's bigger. And now we are going to create these scattered pieces around the sphere. Select the explosion deformer and in the object properties change the time to 26. Now we have created a hole underneath the sphere. Next we'll go to explosion, change the blast range to 450 and let's move on to cluster. And we are going to give our exploding clusters more volume. Let's change the thickness to 22. We'll move on to gravity. We need to set the acceleration to 0 and I will show you why. If we change our viewport and we'll go to the right view, click on display, select quick shading and do the same for the front view as well. Display, quick shading. Now we need to get these broken pieces, we need to get them up to be aligned with the x-axis. So in order to do that we need to change the acceleration to 0. So that looks okay, and let's go to rotation and let's set the speed to 20. The decay, I don't know, maybe 23. And the variation, just random number, 13. Hit enter. And now we have created something that looks like a nest. We'll move on to special, and you could leave it at a default, but let's change it to 5, and variation 5, twist 5, and the variation also 5. Alright, that looks okay. So now we need to get rid of those flying pieces. So let's go back to explosion and change the direction of the explosion to accept Y. We don't want it to be on the Y-axis. Let's see how that looks from above. Display, quick shading. Alright, we need more broken pieces around the globe. So click on the dot on the blue circle and drag it to your right. Let's make it as big as the green circle. Something like that. And now it's time to create textures. Let's go to the materials palette, click on file, load material preset, Cinema4D, materials, channel, and we'll choose lava. Click and drag the lava onto the sphere. Let's create another material. File, new material, double click, color, texture, surfaces, and we'll select flame. Then we'll go to environment, texture, surfaces, and we'll choose galaxy. Then we'll go to alpha, check it in, texture, surfaces, and we will choose Venus and turn the glow on. Alright, so that looks okay. Click and drag the material onto the sphere, and let's do a quick render to see how it looks. It looks great, but we need to create a material for the landscape. So we'll go to file, new material, double click, turn off color, turn on reflection, and turn on fog, and turn on glow. Turn off use material color because we are going to use our own color, and our color will be a dark red color, something like that. Hit OK and turn down the brightness to about 50, and the inner strength, let's make it 370. Alright, and close the material editor. Click and drag the material onto the landscape. And let's see how it looks. Alright, that looks nice. Let's add another material for the melted landscape. We'll go to File, Shader, and we'll select New Key. If yours turns out to be blue, don't worry about it. Just double click on the material and see if your colors match with the colors I have. So diffuse A should be white, specular 1A should also be white, specular 2A should be gray, specular 3A should be dark gray, and reflection should be white. So close the material editor, click and drag the material onto the melted landscape, and let's see how it looks. It looks okay. So let's get back to the perspective view and let's add a sunlight, and in the attribute editor under the sun tablet, change the latitude to 90 and the longitude to 72, and we'll set the month to August and the time 22:55 and hit enter. These are just random numbers, so feel free to change them anytime you want. Let's move on to noise and choose visibility. Let's go to shadow and do a quick render. These shadows are too long, so we want to shorten them, so we can do that by changing the shadow to soft, shadow maps soft. And if we do a quick render, you will notice that the shadows are shortened. Let's go to general and change the type to omni and the visible light to volumetric, and drag on the handles to your right. Something like that. Let's do a quick render to see how it looks. Alright, we've created this light with fog in it. It looks okay for now. Alright, let's group our objects. Go to Edit, select all, Objects, Group Objects. Double click on the null object and rename it to Front Sphere. And go to Edit, Copy, Edit, and Paste. And let's change our perspective view, and we'll go into the top view, zoom out, and on the x-axis click and drag to your left. Something like that. Alright, let's do a quick render. Alright, as you can see, we have the reflection of the sun so we need to get rid of it. In order to do that, we need to go to the sun and turn on no illumination, and also turn on ambient illumination, and we'll do that for the other sphere as well. Let's make sure to rename it to left sphere. Alright, and let's do a quick render. So the reflection of the sun is gone, and now we need to turn on global illumination. Go to the render settings and effects, global illumination, and let's also turn off the auto light, default light, otherwise global illumination will not work. And if we just take a look on how it looks, might take a while, so we now have a more darker image, and that's what we want for now. Click on the left sphere, turn off interactive render region, select the left sphere, go to edit, copy, edit and paste, rename this to right sphere. Also go to the top view and just move it around to something like, whoa, Control Z, I don't know, something like this. Go back to the perspective view and rotate the camera around the front sphere. This is okay, but we need to move the left sphere. We need to move it to the right a little bit. So let's go to the top view and move it to the right. And this looks okay. Our spheres kinda look the same, so we need to create new material. Click on the lava material in the materials palette, go to edit, copy, edit and paste. Double click and rename it to RS lava, right sphere lava, and click on the texture, and here you can change the colors. So double click and I want something green. This looks okay. Click on the red channel, double click, and also something green. We'll go to luminance and click on the texture, double click on the yellow channel and make it something blue. That looks okay. Again, red color, double click and something between green and blue. Alright, close the material editor, expand the right sphere and delete the lava material. Click and press delete. Now drag the newly created lava material onto the sphere and click and drag it so it's in front of the other material. Let's do a render to see how it looks. Interactive render region, expand it, so this looks nice, but if you take a look at the left sphere, you'll notice that the left area is dark and it feels kinda empty, so we need to take care of that. Turn off interactive render region, select the left sphere and select the rotation tool, and we need to turn it minus 100 degree. So shift and click and drag to the left, minus 100. And if we now do interactive render region, so that looks much better. Turn off interactive render region. Now we need to create a background for our image to give it more depth. Deselect left sphere, select melted landscape, hold Ctrl and drag it underneath front sphere. Double click and rename it to background. Now let's go to the front view and rotate the background. Mm, 90 degrees, and go to the live selection tool and move it around. Rotation tool, alright, and click on the scale tool and drag to make it fill up our background. That looks okay. So if we do a interactive render region, so we have now reflection in the background, so it looks like there is something behind those spheres, so the scene is not empty. Let's move back the right sphere a little bit. So we'll go to the top view, selection tool, and reposition the camera. Right sphere, let me turn that off, and just move it back. Okay, and let's also move back the background. Almost finished. Front sphere, and maybe just rotate. I think that's it. Let's do a quick render to see how it looks. Looks nice, but maybe we need to move the front sphere forward a little bit. Closer to the camera. And maybe move the camera up. Okay. Quick render. Alright, this is it. Now let's render this in picture viewer to see how it looks. It took a while to render, but it looks great. And this concludes my tutorial. Thank you for watching.